Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Thomas Podcast here today with a bonus episode this week, two in a week. Nobody asked for it, but we're doing it anyway. Mainly because I got the schedule wrong and I didn't realize that F1 started this weekend, but it does. So we're doing two. And I'm joined by Kevin Parrott again.
Hello.
You're in the
Again?
banner, so you're in the banner, so you got to at least appear once a year to.
I do. This is my annual outing. You wheeled me out for the F1 post-test pre-season chat about.
Yeah,
stuff.
we never did a post-season one. I suppose because it was like so close to Christmas, wasn't it? That it was just busy times.
But I also think if we'd have been recording it, we'd still be recording it because there was a lot to talk about. Since we, I mean, I don't know if you planned on talking about the end of last season, but since we did this last year, a lot's happened. But I'm far from of an impartial voice.
Whereas I would say I was more on the fence than you. I'd say not because I'm particularly a fan of Verstappen. I'm a Hamilton fan. I do rate Hamilton a lot more than perhaps a lot of people do. I know a lot of people that go on this podcast regularly don't like Lewis Hamilton as a person. Me and you, on the other hand, we quite like him. And I do feel like the last race was a fucking shambles, to be honest with you, in terms of racing. But the argument there is, would you want it to end under a safety car? For me, looking back and thinking of it, should have just called red flag. Should have just called a red flag. There's 5 laps to go. Red flag it. Because at least then, you get 4 laps or so, standing start. It's a straight shoot. They could change tyres as well. So the argument of tyres changing.
What was that? What was that?
Anyway,
I'll
edit that out. But the argument of tyre changes would go out the window then, because it'd be 4 laps. Hamilton v Verstappen, fair playing field, But I have to be honest, I do think, I don't know, this is pure speculation, but I do think Netflix played a part in it. Not that Netflix had an ear and said, I'll do this, but I think F1, because of the success of Drive to Survive, as seen by the US Grand Prix last season, they were thinking, a bit spicy, let's have a spicy ending. Whereas actually, a lot of the hardcore fans, I think, were a bit like, well, we know how the sport works, and
whether Netflix had anything to do with it or not, I think that was still the thinking behind it. That was clearly the anticipation was that we built this season up to this moment, and then Massey presumably thought, I can't rob the show. But what he sort of misjudged was, well, you have to still stick to the rules as established. You can't just do what you like, although you can. Although he can.
And I think and unfortunately, I think it taints Verstappen's title win. Whether what you think of Verstappen or not, it was a great battle between two juggernauts last season. Who we were talking, they both deserved to win it, but that tainted it a little bit. And you go, oh, it's not really his fault because he was just doing what he was doing, and he, at the end of the day, won.
Yeah, and I think there's no problem between, as he stated, there's 0 problems at all between Hamilton and Verstappen. Hamilton doesn't blame Verstappen at all. It's more the application of the rule book and you can't move the goalpost, especially 5 minutes from the end.
Exactly, and I think the worst thing, although it did add a bit of extra drama for the weekend, as it were, the fact that we were kind of having to wait after the Grand Prix to find out the result of the championship, rather than the fact that we had to go, oh, it could be changed.
Yeah,
that's not right. It ruins the spectacle.
That's always been a negative. Even in years gone by, it's not so much on a championship level, but of course races have happened where victories have been controversial and results have been amended, and Formula One has made an effort and should do to sort of say, look, you have to deal with this there and then. You can't be amending the result 6 hours after the audience has gone home and thought they've seen the winner. Having said that, it's an incredibly technical sport, and rules have to be there, in all aspects, technical regulations as well as sporting, which is what they didn't do particularly well. They didn't do at all well.
I get what you're saying.
Michael Massey may well have have regretted a few of the decisions last year. It's a tough one. It's a tough balance to strike.
Yeah, and I think, it was put between a rock and a hard place because I get the thinking behind what he did, but you look at it and you go, well, it's not really fair, is it? Because it wasn't like, oh, Hamilton. I think would it have been different if Hamilton had the similar tires as Verstappen, and they would actually be able to fight each other? Possibly the argument wouldn't be as harsh. I think there'd still be questions about it, but the fact that Hamilton essentially was on the opposite strategy, had no tires left, that Hamilton was a sitting duck, and it was sort of an inevitability that Max was going to get him. I think. Yeah. I'm not questioning whether it would have been wrong either way, but I wonder if Hamilton had similar tyre life and they were both kind of going at it and there was a fight longer and they kind of had, would it have been a slightly, but yeah, I don't know. Either way, it was wrong. I don't think it ruined the sport. I think we're going in this year. I think it helps as a regulation change this year to kind of revamp the sport entirely. To sort of give it that new life and hopefully allow some new drivers perhaps to get closer or, get higher up the pecking order and kind of switch things around and maybe change who on top.
Yeah, I think it was a flashpoint for highlighting the fact that you can't have teams lobbying the referee during the thing that's happening in front of him. For a start, he's or she is doing a job that requires their full attention. They don't need representatives from both teams in their ear trying to wangle an advantage for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was just one of those things where you lose. You go, ha? Because I know when we were on the safety car, we were like, oh, not this way. I mean, me and you wanted Hamilton to win, but we were like, not under safety car. And then you kind of go, no cars are allowed to overtake, and you go, okay, it's going to end on the safety car. That's it, no racing. And then Michael went, actually, and it was sort of like, ha? You've just said one thing, and then it's like that. I think that if you stuck to one thing, I think it would have been less criticism. If you said, you know what, I'm going to let cars overtake, and if we get racing, we get racing, that would have been fine. I think some Hamilton fans still would have been upset but that would have been because of a safety car anyway. But
to do neither. He was like, well, just the ones in between you two,
I get the reason, because that allowed us to have that last lap. But it wasn't really a fight, to be honest, because of the situation with the tyres. No, it was
he had both hands tied behind his back.
Hamilton was sitting duck. But yeah, anyway, I think it does. I think the thing is, that's what 3 months is good for. We've had a 3-month gap, and I don't think the sores aren't still there. The fact that maybe until about a month ago, we didn't know whether Hamilton would be racing or not, and there was a bit of concern whether he would bother to come back. And I sort of see his point. Obviously, we love Hamilton's sport. We don't know how many years he's got left. It could be 2. So to see him go out like that would have been horrendous. I think, but one of the best of all time, because I think Formula One is one of those sports where you can never give a definitive best of all time because it's so different as it evolves that you just can't.
It's apples and oranges in so many ways between eras. But I think Hamilton's point was, if you're going to move the goalposts, then I'm not going to play the game. And I think that's quite a legitimate way for him to feel about it. And I don't blame him.
No, but me neither. And I think he's handled himself quite well and waiting for decisions of, who's going to be in charge. Is there going to be changes? Obviously, there was. Bye-bye, Michael Massey. I do feel slightly sorry for Michael Massey. Like you said, he was in a very difficult position in that one. He was getting barked out from both sides. But you have to have the strength to do the right thing.
And look, this wasn't the only thing that annoyed me with his management style, I think you'd call it, the last few years. The other thing that was the blinding red flag for me was just the white line being the edge of the track. That could have been solved in the stroke of a pen, and he just refused, because of pressure from drivers. Well, that shouldn't come into it. I believe the reputation that comes with the incoming race director is what I would advocate, which is my word is law. If I say this, that is it. And if you have a problem, then I don't care. Firstly, the white line is the edge of the track, and that applies to all corners and all racetracks in the championship. Full stop. Why was that so hard?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think, as we move forward into this, I can't wait to actually delve into this season because we're sort of in an unknown, a relative unknown. Obviously, we've had testing. We know some of the issues that some teams are facing and what have you. But it is sort of a reset, obviously, with the budget cuts as well. It kind of closes the field together, you'd hope. Better cars, hopefully, for racing. We hope. No Russian Grand Prix, which is a great thing. I don't want to bring up the current situation, but Sochi not on the calendar. That's great.
Yeah, but not only Sochi not on the calendar, so St. Petersburg, presumably where they were going to take it to, that's been moot as well. So
that's been at least gone for now until there's some kind of resolution. If there ever will be a resolution, it might not be a thing. Who knows? Because we're not going to go into it, but the person in charge of whatever's going on is a lunatic. So yeah, but I will also quickly talk to you, Kev, about Drive to Survive, because I say the first 3 seasons relatively went down quite well. Big success Formula One. This season, though, a lot of the reviews have been more mixed. And I mean, when I say that, I mean not only from certain drivers. I just said do an interview, but also I've seen some big. I hate the word influencers. Big, content creators in the F1 world reviewing it and going, this doesn't feel right anymore. They're going down the wrong path a little bit. And I can't help but feel the same. I've only seen 2 episodes of season 4. I don't really want to watch any else, because I watched the first 2 and there were little bits that irked me. And now I get, look, it's a docudrama series. It's not a straight documentary. It's all about hype and, entertainment. And I get that. But I answer it's for the casual viewer. It's not made for us. It's kind of like Doctor Who, when you go, Doctor Who should be like this. It should include all these bits that we know. Not really, because it's actually a family show. But there is a line where you start to manipulate the personal perception of certain people in certain situations. And that's when I go, that isn't right. Or for me, the big first one last year, which I laughed at, I found funny, was when they tried to cause drama between Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, which, if anybody watched anything else about Drive to Survive, would know it's the complete opposite of the case. You just sat there and you went, what? Of all the 2 to pick, you went with the 2 that are the closest on the calendar, or close on the roster.
As you say, that it's not for us. It's for and if Drive to Survive were to end at the end of this season, the real winner has been Formula One, because it's done an incredible job.
Well,
if you look,
Netflix have already announced they're changing the formula due to the feedback that F1 have given. So clearly, F1 aren't particularly happy with certain aspects. I mean,
we can't ask more than that, can you? Really, they want to carry on. They want the benefits to be for that they want to continue to get that, but they want to tweak and they've agreed. I mean, that's I think that's
and I think because there were certain things I don't know whether this could not be, but like seeing certain things like in episode 1, they try and drive this narrative of Mercedes hate, because Mercedes have been tough and people want to see new champions. So you get people like Karun Chandok out of context of saying, I'm all for Red Bull this year. Well, actually, if you listen to him as a pundit throughout the year, he was very much balanced because he's a pundit. Same thing goes for random people in the paddock going, beat the fuckers or whatever. It's like, well, that to me just seems really staged, because I feel like you wouldn't say that as a president of a motorsport of Bahrain. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just feels really weird. But episode 2 was the big one for me, where they don't paint Lando Norris as such as a bad person or a bit of a prick, but they do paint him as sort of a cocky, he's happy, he's better than Ricciardo, which I guarantee he is. But there was such difference to which they did it. So I know obviously I sent you that article in which he says there was that radio message of he squeezed me out of the way. That wasn't at that Grand Prix. There was the wave in Monaco, which they act as if it's a big taunt of like, haha, see you later, which just wasn't. It was a sign of respect. That's what drivers do. There was bits where they had bits of Lando and Ricciardo in the boardroom, and he said that was cut up and put out of context as well. That to me is a sign I don't like. I get it's drama, but you're also telling it's no longer a documentary, it's a false narrative. And that's what I don't like. I don't mind if it's heightened. I don't mind if you this is like the biggest thing ever, and it's like actually a battle for like P7. That's fine, right? Because if you're doing an episode on like a Alpine, like the Ocon episode, I think there's a battle for like 13th, and they hype it up like it's one of the biggest things ever. That's fine. But when you start to manipulate perception of how certain drivers are. That's why I go, you shouldn't do that. Don't. Yeah, that's why I go. Because also, I don't think it's very smart. Because if people tune into Formula One, they're going to see that isn't the case. Although, I don't also get that's the reason Verstappen's not on it. I think they're going to slowly, if they kept going on the same path, be slowly driving away
and alienate everybody,
alienate the drivers because they're going to go, well, you're making me look a bit of a tit. So I don't really want.
They need to not do that because obviously they're not all contractually obliged to be in the show, so they can opt out. So that's what Verstappen's done. I think the first year both Mercedes and Red Bull or Ferrari.
No, it was Ferrari. It was Ferrari.
Opted out, didn't they? Because they didn't know how much time pressure it was going to add and all this. It's a difficult line for them all to tread, really, because the popularity of the show is high, and it's done a great job for Formula One, and it would have therefore done a great job for their personal profiles as drivers and keep the sponsors happy. The sponsors may be putting them under pressure to do this big popular Netflix show. The problem is, yes, you're right. That's a problem, but that's a problem across all media. That's a problem with the tabloid press or even a sort of a magazine show. They're always looking for an angle, even if it's not. You have to construct the narrative around it. I don't disagree.
I feel like in the first season, even the second season, it was done better. Like I said, they heightened things, but they didn't outright have to make stuff up. And I find it weird that in a season that was so chaotic that they felt like they had to do certain, like there were certain bits that they just missed. I understand they can't preempt who to be with at the weekend, but at the end of the day, you could easily, obviously they got the entire film library of the race. You could easily have an interview segment with this person, whatever. But the fact they feel like they've constructed, I go back to the Carlos and Lando thing. That is utterly silly. Why there wasn't an episode on Russell at Mercedes? Like I said, they are Netflix. They have money. They could have easily changed it last minute and gone, this is a really good episode. This is sick. The fact there was no mention of that, but they made up stuff about Lando and Carlos. It's like, huh? You sit there and you go, I just feel, I don't like that to me, because it's not for me, right? I'm an F1 fan. I'm going to watch every weekend that there's a race on. I'm going to look at the posts. I'm going to see what the inter-week stuff is. But yeah, I don't know. I just watched it. I don't really have any impetus to watch it. Like, it is fun. I'll give it that. And you know what? The stuff I do like is stuff between the team principals, because I think it works for them because you don't really see what they're like on the. I mean, you have interviews with them, but the drivers you have a much more close to personal relationship with than you do the team principals. So you can sort of get away with a bit of Toto Wolff and Christian Horner slagging each other off, because that's probably how they really feel about each other, to be honest. Whereas when you get like Lando out of context going, oh yeah, I feel great because I'm better than him, or it's like, no, like, don't do that. And then when the driver comes out and says, yeah, that was out of context, it immediately diminishes the value. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is, yeah, I mean, that's absolutely right. The only team principal, I think, the real star of the show, obviously, is Gunther. And he may not be as as he seems either. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they are managing their image, and it's tricky. It's a tricky line for the drivers to tread in taking the publicity and giving up control of their image. It's a trade, and it's a tough one.
Yeah, exactly.
Luckily we're not in that position.
Yeah, like I said, I'm happy that going forward there will be some changes, because I feel like it should be in two things. Number one, I think it should be they should change up their format so that they can pivot late on if there are any changes. Because the thing about F1 is it's forever changing, and there's always be a weekend where a surprise shock win happens. And to be honest, it'd be great if there was an episode, which there isn't, but it would be great if there was an episode about Ocon winning the Hungarian Grand Prix, because that's an interesting story. Or
it is, like but don't forget the restrictions placed on them for COVID. They had to.
No, I know, but I think that's what they mean by not only are they going to make changes to how they edit it, but I think they need to also. Again, I'm not saying COVID's over, because that'd be stupid. But now we're going into this world where we're sort of I hate the term living with it, but you get what I mean. We're kind of trying to get back to as normal as possible. Hopefully, we can see them be able to pivot a bit more and go, yes, we can
Be a bit
actually.
more sort of dynamic with their coverage. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because like the big one for me still is that Russell Mercedes episode. I think would have been one of the best episodes of the series, and the fact they never covered it
Would have been
is a
depressing.
bit. Yeah, I used to remember that Grand Prix is etched into my memory because
I mean,
I missed the first few laps because of a fire alarm in my uni building. I come back and it's like literally as he's pit and then overtakes Bottas. I'm like, what the hell? And then it was just. Hopefully, it doesn't happen to him this season.
He did win that day, though. He won that day. He won the seat, which he's now in. I feel sure. If there was any doubt in the management at Mercedes' mind that he would be a really good idea, I think that was when it was like, yeah, we've got to sign this guy like now.
Exactly. That's all I really want to say on Drive to Survive. Let's go on to the new season. I want to say this now. Seeing them out on track, the cars themselves look great. This new shape of car, they look amazing.
They're fit.
Yeah,
they are. They look good. They look good. In fact, I was thinking today when I saw some of Drive to Survive that instantly the old ones looked old. They looked dated. To my eye, it's amazing how quickly you adjust to things like that. But I just think they do look good and they look dynamic and some of the liveries are really good.
I agree, and I think there's not really a bad livery on that. I think Alpine is my least favorite personally because I think it just looks like both because it just looks like the Racing Point and it looks like a shitter version of the last year. I understand BWC like their logo on it and they like the pink, but I think it's just
I agree. If I had to rank, I haven't done a list for ranking the liveries, but
Ferrari looks the best.
The Ferrari looks it does, and I think because to my mind as an old man / old school F1 fan, it sort of looks like the early 90s V12 kind of era. That they just has that look.
I don't get it. Yeah.
And so does the. I mean, I think the Aston Martin looks particularly sexy in the green.
I'm even going to say that I didn't like it when I first looked at it, but the McLaren has grown on me a lot.
Yeah, and I think it looks better in daylight. Weirdly, like it looks better in real life, if that makes sense, than it does in sort of studio lighting. I was a bit disappointed. I think we spoke at the time that the sort of they have tweaked the orange but in particular the blue is a lighter blue. I imagine that's in the response to the very popular Golf livery that they ran in Monaco last year.
Yeah,
but that was the whole thing rather than.
But it just was like an imitation of that, but shitter. You know what I mean? In a sense. But I think overall though, testing was a success. Obviously, porpoising has become the new word of the F1 land.
Well, it's the new old word.
Never heard of the word before, like last week, and now it seems to be a massive. I don't want to say a massive issue because it seems like an issue that teams can fix, but it just depends.
Some have. I mean, you say that. I mean, I think what's the guy's name? Mattia Binotto said the first team to solve porpoising will have a huge advantage. So I think it is probably not the only issue, but it's the single most important issue that is at the forefront of their minds to solve.
Yeah,
and by all accounts, I think McLaren have solved it.
Yeah, obviously McLaren have their own issues, but every team will. And I'm also and I know that the cars will slowly begin to get similar as they learn. But I like the fact that the cars look so different to each other because teams genuinely don't know how to tap the regulations yet. Like I said, next year there will be similar shape because they would have figured out the perfect way for these regulations to work and such. But yeah, I love the way that they look so interesting and different. Yeah. Like you could look at Ferrari and the difference in Mercedes, and it's mental.
You could certainly tell the Mercedes without any livery because the side pods they turned up with at the second test were
inverted.
No side pods, upside down, virtually nothing, like this weird shape. I know that they're not the only extreme side pods. Red Bull side pods are quite extreme. Ferrari side pods have an enormous kind of hollow U section in them, like a depressed section. There's definitely been quite a bit of room for creative thinking. It's not like the regulations are universally so tight, which was what I thought we're in danger of, because certain aspects of the car, certain areas have been very tightly regulated, and how the FIA enforce those now is much faster and more accurate. So they used to be doing things like, and there's nothing wrong with this, like using a ball with a certain radius to see if it fits a slot gap or it fits a curve to see if the angle is the same. Now they're laser scanning everything and doing it sort of doing that on the fly. So a car will go into scrutineering, or it'll be in the garage even, and they can be scanned, and that data can be looked at straight away anywhere in the world, presumably, and compared to a set of regulations. So they're going to be quick to shut things down, I think, in terms of scrutineering should be faster, which in my mind is a good thing, and probably is more of an argument to bin off Thursdays, but that's an entirely different thing. That's kind of doing the rounds in the paddock. I think that the F1 weekend's too bloated, it's too long, and if they're demanding 20, 21, 22 races a year, it would be nice to claim some time back.
Yeah, totally. Other stories, obviously, I'm going to say this because I'm going to say this really quickly. Hamilton has come out and said, I don't think the car is good enough for wins this year. No, I don't want to call BS, but Hamilton, you say it every year, fella. And then at the end of the first Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton wins the Bahrain Grand Prix.
He does say it every year. But this year in particular, there is more value in him saying that. There's more value in sandbagging, which for many years I never really understood until somebody sat me down and explained to me the reason the team was sandbagging. And it applies especially now because the regulations have gone through such a huge change, arguably the biggest change ever.
Yep.
For one particular concept like this Mercedes side pod, for example, for them to demonstrate that their car is hugely superior, will give the teams 2-3 weeks their rival teams 2-3 weeks head start in copying that idea. If they think if it's a non-starter, if the car don't work particularly well, they don't put their attention into that, the rival teams. So I completely understand why he would say it, but also it's like the boy who cried wolf. One day he will have a dud, or they might well have turned out a car that's not this all dominant thing, and then he says it and he still sounds like he's lying. So we'll just have to wait and see. And that is with testing this year. Testing that's always tricky to read. Obviously, you give it all the caveats in the world. All that you can say is such and such a team had a really good test, and so had a bad test. That's not necessarily indicative of the final order, but we know that, for example, Ferrari had a great test.
Yeah, exactly.
Alfa Romeo are not so good. McLaren, that's good.
But I think McLaren, again, like you said, sandbagging. I think McLaren have a lot of raw pace in there. I think they've got a few kinks to sort out, and then they're on it.
Yeah. I think the fundamentals seem to be really good. And what really surprised me, and I'm assuming Formula One as well, is the across the board general reliability has been extremely high. The fact that Formula One had a pre-test shakedown, and what they call an extended shakedown, which they decided wouldn't be shown publicly, wouldn't be televised and all that, because they were worried about cars breaking down and the image that would show certain sponsors. Nobody wants to see their brand on the engine brand, for example, on the side of a car with smoke pouring out of it.
Yeah,
excuse me. And that didn't really happen. Well, it did happen, but not to the extent, less than normal. Less than normal that happened. So I'm really impressed with you.
Exactly, and I think it's been good to see that there are always going to be small issues here and there, but I'm happy that they've managed to kind of, it seems to be like it's still positive even in the first kind of year, and it seems like the racing's going to be better. Fingers crossed. It seems, even if it's slightly better, it doesn't need to be amazingly better, because at the end of the day, if a race is good, strategy comes into play anyway. And it doesn't have to be, they're battling side by side for 100% of the time. It doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be, so we have to wait for the DRS part of the lap for this overtake that's going to happen.
Yeah, F1 is the long game, isn't it? It's a longer game. It's a different beast. It's not that, it's not British touring car, which is that, or maybe even MotoGP, which is that kind of every single quarter. It's a different thing.
It's a game of chess, even though didn't they? Which is one thing I'll agree with. It is a game of chess. It's not just pure oversight. And that's the fun of it. If it was, I'll go to look. I like a race with side by side racing, but if it was consistent, the specialty of those moments would go. But I'm just saying that I hope that it's not something where a car's faster, but they just can't get past because of dirty air.
There's the middle ground, isn't
Yeah.
there?
But I also want to say as well, it's good to see Kevin Magnussen back on the grid. I'm not going to talk about who he replaced because they're a tosser, but it's good to see somebody that I genuinely thought got a shit end of the stick. It's a shame that he's still in a Haas because I think he is actually quite talented. Will Haas make an improvement this year? Find out in our lists. But at the end of the day, they've got two of the most, two good drivers now in Mick and Kevin. Obviously, Kevin knows that team very well. You could see, like you were saying, the smile on his face.
The smile on his face was it was so genuine as well. Normally they're a bit tired of talking to in the interview I saw he was just so happy.
And he was like, I kind of closed this chapter of my life. I thought it was over, but to be back, it feels incredible. Yeah.
And I read today that he said, it just feels like I've not been away because he knows the team so well. He's just straight back in. All the old relationships are there. And he can just go, he can hit the ground running. So, and I think also it's nice. He's just a perfect fit for the team, and he's a perfect fit for the situation. Having Mick Schumacher, although it's not his rookie season, he's gonna, Magnussen's got a lot more experience, so he's going to be someone else. They've got a good balance there.
Yeah, I agree. Right, shall we get into the fun part? I don't know how similar or different we're going to be. We'll do constructors first, and we'll reveal it one by one. Because the other podcast was quite short, the WrestleMania one, so this one's a bit longer. I don't mind.
The first one it was about 2.5 hours. We can't do that again.
No. But who have you got 10th in the Constructors Championship?
Oh, we're gonna go reverse order. Okay.
Yeah.
Constructors. I've got unsurprisingly, I've got Alfa Romeo right at the back.
I have Alfa Romeo right at the back.
Based on the test, and
Yeah, I think I feel really bad for Valtteri Bottas because I really like Valtteri Bottas, but it just feels like he's got a dud card. I think Guan Yu Zhou is unfortunately not that great. I think he's all right, but it's sort of like the Nikita Mazepin. He's a lot nicer than Nikita Mazepin, but it's sort of like one of those guys in F2 that was good, but didn't really hit the upper echelon. I feel like it's going to be a similar situation with Zhou.
Maybe, but then that's the nature of progressing into a.
Oh no, I agree.
You don't get into the Mercedes. That's just where his pitch landed, sort of thing.
But yeah, Alfa Romeo don't look too great. I feel bad for them because they've technically got possibly Bottas, and I hope Bottas has a good run at Alfa Romeo. I think he'll be the stronger of the two without spoiling my standings. I think he will be considerably.
He should be, yeah. He should be.
But yeah, what about number 9?
I've got Haas.
Okay, so let's see if we actually match. Haas, I want them to do better though, because you know what? I like Gunther. I like Mick. I like Kevin. Hey,
there's now nothing to not like about Haas.
I want them to at least score some points, for the love of God. Has it been? Did Mick score some else? I forget. Did Mick actually end up scoring points?
I don't think so.
I didn't know if he ended up scoring some of that ridiculous Belgium fiasco, or there was like a race where he ended up. Did he end up like 11th once? Or something?
Belgium didn't happen, did it?
Or did he? Was it Hungary where a lot of people crashed out and that one of them got uber close?
I don't know. Possibly. There's so much. I mean, I don't think so, but possibly.
Hungary feels like a year's away, doesn't it?
Write into Alex. Don't write to me. I don't read those.
He'll just cry. He'll have an existential crisis and just cry.
I reckon we're maybe fairly similar up on this list.
I feel like this next one might be a bit different. Well, who have you gone with?
I've got Williams next up.
I've got Alpine.
Ooh.
I really don't fancy Alpine this year. I was watching them in the test. I think they had a solid test, but I think overall,
yeah.
I don't know. I just have a feeling. You know, when there's got this might be like one of the most ridiculous. There is. I'm gonna be honest. In my constructors and my drivers, there are some like batshit calls. This might be one of them. I don't know. I feel they might take a little bit of a drop off, and I think it's not maybe because they've done worse. I think it's because teams around them have perhaps done better.
they've also still got Alonso though on board, and he's as quick
And
as ever.
I think Alonso is great, but me and Ocon, we don't get along. I don't rate him, poor boy. And Oscar Piastri would be better in that seat. But
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I don't. It's a gut feeling because this is all speculation. It's based on nothing. It's based on testing, which could be the biggest load of bollocks because teams aren't pushing, or some teams are pushing and some teams aren't. So who knows? But I've got Alpine 8. Who have you got as 7th?
Aston Martin.
I've put Williams.
Wow.
Yeah, I put Williams. So
I mean,
let's talk about Williams. Because obviously that's why I didn't talk about them now because I wanted to say that I put one up. They've got Alex Albon, who I hope has a good run. For the love of Christ, that boy is so lovely, and he just every time he did really well in the Red Bull, got
he has
shut
the worst
on by,
luck, doesn't he? He seems to have the worst luck in the world. There are occasionally these drivers, it seems. I remember Johnny Herbert was a bit like this. He just has constant bad luck. It's just
and also I know obviously it's a bit of a meme, but Nicholas Latifi has by season improved, and I think he has earned his place in that team. I think he is a solid driver now. I think you could obviously make the argument that other drivers are better, and I'm not denying that. But I think overall he has improved. You can see a massive difference from his first race to where he is now. And I think overall, who understand that car is well integrated in the team now, it gives them the opportunity to really score some points as a pairing, which is why I put them above Alpine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, completely. I mean, these are all very fine margins when we're basing them on nothing. So it's
I'm going to be honest. I haven't put Aston Martin at 6th either. So
haven't you?
No.
Okay, well, I've got AlphaTauri there.
I've got AlphaTauri at 6.
They had an all right test. Gasly was fastest on one of the days. I know all the caveats, but he, they had a decent. They didn't have an awful test.
No, unfortunately, this boils down to Yuki Tsunoda being about as consistent as anything. I like Yuki. I think he's a lovely chap. He swears a bit too much on the radio because he was quite hot-headed, but he's just very inconsistent. I think if Gasly had more of a consistent teammate, AlphaTauri last year would have beat.
Hopefully, he'll be hoping, the team will be hoping that that's just something that he can improve. Well, let's hope, because if he doesn't, then I fear that he's going to lose the seat because.
You've got so many people waiting in the wings, like Yuri Vips.
Exactly. Essentially, that he's in the Red Bull family, and they're, let's face it, brutal.
Yeah, I mean, Helmut Marko's not going to wait. Helmut Marko's not going to wait around.
Surprised. Yuki Tsunoda seemed quite surprised that they'd signed him for this year. So he's expecting it, but that doesn't make it easy. I mean, I hope he does well. He's a nice chap.
Yeah, I like Franz Tost. I think he's brilliant. So I think he's a lovely chap.
He's who am I to say this? But he comes across as a bit of a personality vacuum. But that's just that might be doing him a massive injustice. I'm sure. Right, he's lovely.
So I'm going to assume that you've put Alpine at 5.
I've got Alpine at 5.
I've got Aston at 5.
Okay, quite 2 places higher than I put Aston.
Whereas, so essentially, we've swapped. I put Williams higher than Alpine. Apart from that, we're kind of similar. Aston, I don't know. I think Seb Vettel. I'm on the Seb Vettel hype train. He's got a hair transplant. He's looking good. I'm on the Seb Vettel hype train. Lance Stroll doesn't do anything for me, but Seb, I reckon he's going to get a few wins this year. That sounds like absolute tosh. I know, but it's Seb Vettel. And I'm just saying.
I think that's pretty bold.
Seb's not anymore.
I never used to be a fan, right? I was never a fan, but I'm talking back in his Red Bull days. And I'm talking like when he was against Mark Webber, Multi-21, being what I consider to be like a petulant little shitbag, and the stupid inverted finger thing. Like I just hated it all. But he's, as a person, since he's left Ferrari, essentially, he's grown on me enormously. And I think he's one of.
I think as he's matured and got older, he's let his fun side come out.
Yeah, but also he's just one of the only 2 drivers that think, I've got a platform here, I'm going to use it to speak up against bad shit.
Everything,
That I don't agree
everything.
with. Yeah, and I think that's to be commended. And I know he was running a pro no war pro Ukrainian helmet in testing at least one day. And
I
just
still
think,
think I still think there was never more of a whole. I think he had the two most wholesome images of the year last year. One was picking up the rubbish,
picking up the
and
litter,
the and the other one was the fact that he met that person at the airport. He said, "Look, I'm going to propose to my missus here. If you could be there," and he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." Obviously, you think they're just going to say that? No, he actually showed up and congratulated them, and he didn't have to do that. He was just like, "Do you know what?
yeah.
You know,
yeah. The pressure is off, and I think he seems happy
yeah,
where he is, and I'm grateful that side of him is. There was a time where he was doing he just brake tested me and driving into Hamilton and doing stuff that was not at all becoming.
I think Ericsson hit us. It's still one of my favorite calls. Even though it's not a Vettel thing, that's a Grosjean thing. Still one of my favorite calls ever.
That was that race, though, right?
Yeah,
that was that race, right? Okay.
Yeah. Right. This is where I get bold again. Who have you got for?
Fourth, I've got McLaren.
I've got Red Bull.
It pains me to put McLaren in fourth because
okay. All right. Let's see how we'll talk about the top four because I think this is where it could get quite mixed. Right. I've got Red Bull at 4. Who you got at 3?
Red Bull.
Mercedes
2.
I've got McLaren 2.
And I've got Ferrari number 1.
Ferrari 1
to win the constructors title.
So we've essentially, to repeat that, I've got Red Bull 4th, Merc 3rd, McLaren 2nd, Ferrari 1st.
I've got McLaren 4th, Red Bull 3rd, Mercedes 2nd, Ferrari 1st. And I think, talking of hype trains, I'm fully on the Ferrari hype train.
Yep.
And which is weird because they were always to me the old enemy. So because I'm a McLaren guy, so
we're both McLaren boys.
But it's the old arch nemesis, isn't it? Is McLaren is Ferrari. And
right now with these top 4 of the constructors, I actually don't really want to go too far into it because I feel like it might spoil our top championship list. Because I feel like that top 8 for us is going to be vastly different, perhaps.
Well, let's see.
So let's go from the bottom again.
Okay.
At 20th, I think this is going to be the same person. I've got Guan Yu Zhou.
Yes, and I'm still unclear as to whether it's pronounced Guan Yu Zhou or Zhou Guan Yu because I know that there is a cultural difference between. I don't know.
I don't understand. I don't want to get if I'm being ignorant and I'm wrong. I think it depends where you're from, right? And how you would pronounce it. I might be wrong, but I know
tweet Alex and let him know.
Obviously, I know for example, Charles Leclerc in some places is Charles Leclerc, but here we just say Charles Leclerc. That sort of thing. I think that's how it works. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but either way, we've both got him.
I'm going to get hate for this one. Who you got at 19?
Latifi.
Mick Schumacher.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Oh, I really like him.
Again, he's very different to his dad. I hated his dad when his dad was driving. Not anymore.
I want this to be wrong. I do. I like genuinely. I think he's lovely. I like his little friendship he has with Seb Vettel. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. He's his mentor, isn't he?
I like the fact that I don't know whether you know this. There's a photographer called Kim Illman who does YouTube videos. He's a photographer. He photoed them having breakfast together on days for testing. They're just good mates. But yeah, I think it has. I don't know. I think it has to be better this year. But I think Schumacher will struggle. I think he'll come into it towards the end of the season. I think he'll come
You put Haas ninth, didn't you?
I put them above. Yeah. But I think Schumacher, he'll be on the 6. I think Magnussen will be on it quite quickly. And I think towards the end of the season, we'll see that crossover from where Schumacher gets better. But because the fact that Haas is still 9th, I think that will just be a bit too late within the season for Schumi to start.
Now, I mean, obviously, this is ridiculous for me to say, but I've heard that this generation of cars is closer in terms of how they drive and handle to a Formula 2 car than than last year's Formula 2 cars were to a Formula 1 car, if that makes sense. So last year's F1 cars were a totally different beast to Formula 2, whereas this year apparently Formula 2 and Formula 1 translate more directly, but obviously F1's just outright faster. And if that's the case, I mean, Mick Schumacher did win. He won in F2, didn't he? So I don't know. I mean, I'd also like to see him do well, as you say.
So you had Latifi at 19. I had him at 18. So
okay, yeah, that's true.
I like Latifi. I genuinely, although it's the memes of King Latifi is going to win. Do you know what? Because a lot of people say pay driver. And to be fair, at the start, of course, that's what it was, because Williams was struggling for money. But I think he has shown that he is willing to learn, willing to get better. He's not just there, and he has improved. I still remember Hungary last year, where George Russell, like, he genuinely out-qualified Russell and things like that. And then Nicky was ahead, you know. Yeah, but still, no, but you look at the caliber. No, but okay, like, you go back to when Latifi first joined the sport, and the gap
about
between
50 times.
Yeah, no, but then you go, but you look at the gap between where they were, right? And he has closed that gap. He has put the effort in, and that's what I mean, you know. But
yeah, now look, and also I've heard more than once that he's the nicest guy in the paddock, but he's a bit anonymous.
Who have you got? 18.
18. I've got Bottas. Controversial.
I've got him at 17.
Oh, okay. It's not that controversial then. I know, and he seems like, again, I'm sort of a fan, but I'm
a bit bored of the who it may concern now. It was cool when he won that first Grand Prix, and then he started, and then he went shithouse again, and then every time he win, he'd be like, "Oh, who it may concern," and it'd be like, "Well, it's kind of lost its shine now, mate." Because
and he's good, but he could never have beat Lewis Hamilton.
No, and I think it takes a very special caliber of talent to be able to do that. And I think that also has kind of put a damper on Bottas's quality. Well, actually, I think Bottas is a very capable driver, as we both agree.
Well, they're all capable. They're all capable.
No, but okay. Within the realm of Formula One, he is of the upper echelon of the mid pack.
When I was reading, I honestly think I can beat Hamilton. I'm better than Hamilton, and so who's going to tell him? But
you have to believe. You have to believe that, though, right? As a driver, you have to believe. If you go in with the defeatist, I'm just crap out of the team, mate. What's the point being there? In fact, you have to go in thinking that I have done enough to be at that level to give him a good go. Well, the fact of the matter is, he's been in the top team for many seasons. He's going to take that and help, hopefully, give Alfa Romeo a little something. Like I said, I think 17th is not reflective of his quality within this field. I think it's reflective of the car. I guarantee, do you know what? I really hope he has one or two outstanding performances this season where he gets like a 7th or something. You know, where he can, like, you know, he can have one of those races where you just see the Bottas that, you know.
But do you think that he would be any different to Kimi Räikkönen, who frankly, in terms of raw speed, was, you know, right up there? He was in that car last year, obviously.
It's tough, isn't it? It's tough.
It's just
has Bottas had a shit?
But he's just going to be at the back third, you know, and that's not necessarily him. But that's his lot now.
So was Bottas 18 for you?
Yeah, 18. I've got him.
Who's 17? Because Bottas was 17 for
me. K-Mag.
I've got him 16.
Well, we're just kind of.
The only difference so far is Schumacher, and you've put. Well, actually, I'm one ahead of you, aren't I? So we've said for Schumacher. K-Mag, look, this again, I'm on the K-Mag hype train. I just want him to do well because I feel like, unfortunately, he's just a really shithead of the stick in Formula One. Legitimately, I think you put him in a good car, not only because it's a good car. I reckon if you put him in a good car, he would have been up there. I don't mean like world champion quality, but I mean. Like, you remember when Romain Grosjean was in Lotus? I think everyone kind of thinks of Roman as a shit driver, which he's really not. I mean, he's done some dumb things but Romain Grosjean, you gave him a car. I think he's the same quality, if not better than Romain Grosjean, to be honest with you. We've seen what he's done in other Formula as well, and other, you know, and I think if he just had that car, he's better. And that's why I'm going to give him the one over Schumacher here. I think he'll just get to grips with it faster. I don't know what it is. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe a year out the sport. Maybe it's the complete opposite, and he's gone. I just had this gut feeling, or maybe it's a want and a need. Like I said, the back lot is sort of you just pick. It's a rough estimate. It's when you get like the top 8 when you go, no, I have to really think about this because.
But of course, he's coming back into essentially what is a totally new formula for everybody.
Yeah,
you know. So I think the year away is minimised by the fact that he's coming back to his old seat and team and everyone, and he could just hit the ground running. And B, everyone he's kind of reset. So I don't think that'll be an issue for him at all. I think that you just have to be the more adaptive drivers. So which is why I think Alonso will do better than you think. Than you seem to think he will, because he's.
Oh, you don't know why I put Alonso on the.
Oh well, okay, but you put Alpine low, but was that just the drag factor of Ocon?
I didn't put Ocon that low. I think it's because for certain teams you'll see in the list, I put one driver a lot higher than perhaps another, whereas some of them were quite stuck together, which is what I've done with Alpine. They're quite close together, but they're. Right, who have you got? Who have you got at 16?
16, I've got Mick Schumacher.
Okay, so now the equilibrium has returned because the same bottom.
But obviously they're next to each other, and who knows? You know, I just think he's going to do better.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, Mick. I don't think you're wrong. I want Mick to do well. I put my 19th just because we've seen in the past that it does take a bit to get to grips with new cars and I'm just going off pattern here because it's all I have. It's all a guess. I'm not a sports journalist. I'm just a viewer. I don't know the ins and outs of how he's feeling. I don't have insiders that are saying this is how it's going in the camp. This is how they're feeling. But it's interesting we've got the same bottom 5. I wonder if that's going to continue as we increment.
In broad terms, I would have thought so, but it's just.
Who have you got at 15?
15th, I've got Albon. Because honestly.
Okay, I've got Tsunoda.
Yeah, we are very much. We're like this.
I know Albon's a few spaces higher for me.
Okay, well, I mean I've revised this list 2-3 times today, and I could on reflection go, do you know what? I think maybe Albon could be higher than that because I rate him.
Do you know what, Smidge? I know obviously I've seen a bit of testing. I've seen a bit of testing, but I keep forgetting that he's back in it. Because he's not in Red Bull, and because he's still a Red Bull driver, I'm sort of like, because he's still with Red Bull, isn't he? Red Bull have loaned him out to Williams.
I'm still unclear as to whether he's completely free of contract at Red Bull or if he's on loan. I don't know. I honestly don't know. If you could Google that whilst we're doing, I'm sure we can find out. But I think he's probably got a callback clause. I don't know why they would.
Oh yeah, but does that mean that, say for example, they got rid of Perez wants to go to Williams?
Well, or if he's out. No, I think if maybe if Red Bull, I think Red Bull have a lot of drivers. I think if let's say one of them got COVID, do you know what I mean? I don't know whether it would be Albon who would jump back into the Red Bull. I don't know.
I doubt it. I think they just give Vips the seat. I think if you've got a contract,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. They've got.
I think if you've got a contract with the team, obviously, I think the difference was like Russell with Mercedes because at that point he was still like a junior, whereas now because Albon I think has surpassed that and he's just got like a Red Bull contract. I think it's like football. You can't just recall them for one match because you want them back. I don't think that's what I could be wrong. I don't know if full contracts were. I just assumed that Williams would be like, hang about if Albon's doing really well for us, and when that kind of gives us the shit end of the stick. Do you know what I mean?
I don't even know if he's still under contract with Red Bull. So,
but yeah. So I've put Tsunoda here again. Mr. Inconsistent. I guarantee you have 1 or 2 really good Grand Prix, and then the rest of them he'll crash or he'll be shit. And I don't mean that horribly, but nothing from last season has proved to me that he's consistent. He didn't really improve that much. He got better results as it went along, but you could still from one Grand Prix to the next.
I thought you were after testing. He was really shining in testing last year.
Yeah, and everyone was going, Tsunoda could get a podium.
And in the first kind of few races, it was like, this guy's really good. And then, that evaporated.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have Tsunoda at 14?
Yes, I've got Tsunoda on 14.
I have Ocon at 14. Look, I like Esteban. I generally really do. I just think that he's not I think he's like, you know, when like a driver has hype and you just don't get it. Like you go, I just don't see it. Like I don't look. Like, I get he's talent, like he's decent, but like I don't see him on the same level as I see the talent of Pierre Gasly, for example, or Lando Norris, which some people held him to be, which I don't really get. I see him as a solid team driver, but I think he's proved that he's lost to people like Perez. He's lost to people like Alonso. And I'm not saying those are easy people to beat, but at the end of the day, if you want to be one of the best in the sport, you've got to be closer to those people. You can't just keep losing on end and end, you know. And I don't think he's a bad driver. That's why he's like still in a decent position, but I don't see him in this light that some people put him.
You don't see him in that league. No, that's fine.
No.
And that's there's an argument to be made there.
And like I said, he won a race. I'm not saying that some people are going to say you already said that because it's Hungary. No, I think he did deserve to win that race. I think he did a brilliant drive, and I think, you know, given the circumstances, to win any Formula One race takes a lot of balls, a lot of, you know, mental preparation, and that race he deserved to win it. And I'm not going to take that away from him. That'd be silly. Kind of like when the FIA deduct people from the podium for a little bit of fuel missing, which is still a rule that baffles me that that's how that works. When it's so far little off, I think there should be like a gap. Like, you know, there should be.
The problem is, how else do you do it?
I know. I just, when Vettel got his podium and then they went, no, I was like, oh.
Yeah. It's just, but like you say, the ultimate is, well, when do you draw the line? You have to have an absolute, don't you? Otherwise you end up like Massey going, well, okay, he was off the track for that lap. Yeah.
Right, who have you got at 13? Because that's what I've got Albon.
In 13th, I've got Ocon.
Okay, so we're not far off. So we talked about those three. Who have you got at 12?
12, I've got Alonso. So I've actually
I've put Alonso higher than you. Because I've got Lance Stroll. Because I put Lance Stroll.
Okay.
Safe to say, I think Vettel will be the better of the two.
Yeah, I agree. My list will reflect that.
I'll say this: I've got Alonso at 11. So who have you got 11th?
I've got Stroll at 11.
Hey, we've got the same 10. We've got the same bottom 10, the same top 10. Let's go. Well, we'll talk about the both. Stroll first. I think he's, again, same as Latifi. On a higher level, I'd say he's improved season on season, slowly had better results. His qualifying is still something to be desired. I think qualifying is still where he lets himself down, because in races, even if he qualifies 16th, you see him end up getting like 11th or even like a 9th or something. And that is impeccable considering the cars he's in. But imagine if he could just get that one lap pace a little bit better, find himself with like a P12 or a P11, he could then find himself battling for P8s, P7s. And because his racecraft is legitimately something to admire.
Absolutely. When he started, I thought, oh, daddy's bankrolled you. And that's to an extent is true. But he's not. Having then watched him, I was like, actually, he's actually pretty good. Like he's, you know, he's like you say, his racecraft qualifying needs to improve, but then he knows that, and he'll be trying to work on that, I'm sure. You know, I'm a bit sort of. I just, something always stuck in my head with him. A radio call from his first year. It sounded really petulant, and I need to work on letting that go, I think. But
what was it? It was in Monaco, wasn't it? What's the point of even racing?
Well, it wasn't. No, so that's another one. You're right. So also,
but then again, though, I think as well, you have to remember that when he first joined, he essentially was a child. I think he was younger than me, right?
He was 18.
Yeah, and that is like a. You know, you take that for granted. You go, right, you should have some level of responsibility. But if I was F1 driver at 18, I'd get frustrated very easily. And I know, you know, that's not a right thing to say. I'm not defending some of the stuff he said and how he acted, because you should be professional in that job. And I don't, but you also take for granted the pressure that you have on yourself as a Formula One driver, the amount of press that suddenly gets, you know, and that we don't see very much. We can't really comment. But I guarantee that does take a toll. And when you want to be the best and you're 18 and you're sat there going, why the fuck am I in the worst team? I guarantee now he looks back, kind of like how Seb did when he was younger. He goes, I was a bit of a twat, you know, I was a bit of an egomaniac. Sure. And he might have gone, you know, and I guarantee, you know, but 18, you know, when I was 18, I was a little shit. Imagine I was like a rich Formula One driver, I'd be worse. You know,
if you were the son of a millionaire as well, millionaire businessman, he's probably not, you know, he's not wanted for anything. And it's just unfair of me. I'm like you said, I think he's not. outwardly at least been like that for a while. Yeah, I think he's actually, and that doesn't impact on this list for me, because I think it's not. This is where I want them to finish. That's why.
Yep.
I think he is good and he is worthy of the seat.
Right. Fernando Alonso. I put him at 11th, and you put him 12th, right? So we've swapped Stroll.
Yeah.
I think Alonso's going to have a solid year. I think he's having another solid year. Question is, I think it's this contract up at the end of this year. Is this contract up at the end of this year? Was it a 2-year deal?
This is who knows? He's retired. He's retired before, so twice or something.
I don't know how long he'd want to be in the mid pack, though. Obviously, again,
he's so irked by not winning the third title. He's always wanted that 3. I know he's so nearly got it. I mean, he's a driver who's more talented than he appears on paper. Absolutely. Yeah. He should have won more titles. I mean, this is crazy given that he's the double world champion. But I mean, what
was it? 2012 when he came? Was it 2012 or 2011?
Yeah, and there's obviously that famous, I think it's 2012, famous shot of him just staring in Brazil. He claims that wasn't anything to do with his emotional state at the time. I think he said he was just looking and waiting for something, but you could see it in his face, and I don't blame him for a second. It would be weird for any top flight sportsman not to feel like that if they've missed out on their goal by the tiniest of margins.
Yep. Yeah, totally. And I think this year going to be similar levels to last year, because I think the Alpine will be worse. I put him at 11th, and I put Ocon quite low. But I think, But I still think he's got the talent to put himself in that edges of the top 10 in the standings. I think he will do that. Right, here we go. Top 10 time.
Top 10, yeah.
Here we've got 10th.
10th, I've got his driver's number is Gasly.
I've got Vettel.
Okay.
Sebastian Vettel. I love the man. Like, we talk about how I'm sure a wholesome person he is, but also as a driver, people have said that he's dropped it a little bit, but last year he had some dynamite moments, and I don't mean like just the podiums and the high, like throughout he was really consistent. It took him a few races to get used to the car, but it would. You drive a Ferrari for years on end, you go to, and even then you've been driving in 2 of the best cars in Formula One, you go to a mid-team, completely different dynamic.
Yeah, we saw the same with Ricciardo, didn't we? When he moved to McLaren, he had to sort of relearn.
And then I think people forget that towards the end, Ricciardo as well started to get better. Not obviously the levels we thought Danny Rick McLaren could be that perfect match that finally, but he started to close up. But Vettel was on it from about race 5, Monaco, for example.
Yeah. I mean, you have to say that of all the drivers, the big drivers that made moves last year, Daniel Ricciardo had the toughest time adapting.
Yeah. But Vettel, I think overall, like I say, will be better. 10th, like I said, I want him to be higher, but I think there's going to be some tough competition in that top 9. But you've gone with Gasly. I've not even put Gasly 9th, so I put Perez 9th.
That's quite a way back, given that he's going to be in the Red Bull.
Yeah.
Are you feeling well?
Yeah. Who have you put 9th?
9th, I've put Danny Rick.
I put Danny Rick a lot higher. I feel like this is where our constructors sort of. This is where the swap from you put McLaren 4th and me put McLaren 2nd and Red Bull 4th.
I want them to be.
So that's okay. I've put Gasly 8th. So let's talk about Gasly first.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gasly this year's going to outshine Perez. Do you know what? I think you talk about dynamite drivers. Still to this day, I say I'm confused. I'm not really, because the Red Bull pressure is hot. And when Max Verstappen, who is the golden child and still as young as he is, why would Red Bull focus on anybody else? They'd be silly to. Gasly's in a really shit stick position because Gasly is legitimately, possibly, I hate to say this, he's going to be one of the best drivers ever not to be world champion. I just never. I hate to say that now. You could go, well, you don't know how it's going to be in years. I just don't see with the current young crop. Where whatever team he goes to,
that window's closing quick. You're right, and he's very, very good. And I just think the pressure cooker, as you say, it's not even necessarily the pressure, but the whole of Red Bull pivots around Max Verstappen, as you just said. And even if he were to finish in a very good spot and beat Perez, if you were Red Bull's management, if I was, I think I'd still be thinking, I don't really want to take him on board. Yep. Because we know that it doesn't work.
And I also think they know that he doesn't want to play second fiddle. I mean,
he's flourishing.
The good thing as well is for Red Bull is I guarantee Perez wants to win championships, obviously, because then you drive would. But Perez and Gasly are at two opposite ends of their career. I'm not saying that Perez is near retirement, but he's not got
he's in
5 years left, has he? Whereas Gasly's still a young lad who could have a decade left in the sport. And he won't want to sit there and be second fiddle. He'll go, actually, look at my performances. I know I haven't done, I haven't been as consistent as Max, but look what I've done in this AlphaTauri. Why? Yeah, exactly. And I think it's one of those things where I think this year he'll get the most out of that car and put himself in that top 8.
And teams do matter. They make a difference. There was an interview with Alonso, I think, was it after last season or towards the latter third, and he was talking about how he felt he would fare against Max Verstappen, and he said something along the lines of, I think if we were a neutral team, I'd fancy my chances, but I wouldn't fancy my chances against him there, because he thinks that whole team is absolutely geared around him, which makes Perez's performances quite impressive.
So obviously I put Perez 9th, you put Ricciardo 9th. This is my biggest controversial one. Number 7. The current F1 world champion, Max Verstappen. I put him at 7.
There is something wrong with you if you think.
I know. But I look at the crop of drivers in that top 6 and I go,
yeah, but the last year, Hamilton and Verstappen were in a different formula to the whole of the rest of the field. Wow. I mean, yeah, who knows? But I think he wouldn't finish in 7th if he was racing in a wheelbarrow.
Right, so you put Danny Rick. I haven't even put Danny Rick at 6th.
Where the hell have you put him?
5th.
Okay. So what are you asking me now? 7th?
7th and 6th. So
7th, I've got Lando.
Okay. No, Lando's on the other. Like we put Lando many places apart.
I hope he's finishing higher than that. But then you've put Max Verstappen at 7th.
I think my world champion is going to be controversial now as well.
I'm a massive fan of Lando Norris. I think he's lovely. I think he's very, very.
I will tell you now. I put Lando Norris at 2nd. Nice. I put McLaren 2nd in the constructors. I think they will be the 2nd best team.
Yeah, that's bold. Okay, so and my 6th place, you said 7th and 6th.
Yeah, 6th.
My 6th is Charles Leclerc.
My 6th, George Russell.
6th. I mean, I think you've gone off the rails.
No. Here's the thing: we started with Bahrain. He was great against Valtteri Bottas. I think against Lewis Hamilton.
I think
I'm not saying that over time. Again, similar to other drivers. I think it's good, but off the boil, I think there's going to be a bit of a gap. It's going to take Norris 5 or 6 races to get close, and you might disagree, and that's fine. That's why there's a podcast on this.
I've got a feeling that Lewis Hamilton might well have his hands full this year with 2 fronts.
Okay. So we'll talk about that in a sec. Let's just rattle it off. So you put Charles Leclerc 6th. He's much higher for me. 5th, I put Danny Rick. You put him 9th, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which is mental difference. 4th, I put Lewis.
What have you got at the top 3? What have you done?
Well, I put Norris 2nd. I put Charles Leclerc 3rd, and my F1 world champion for 2022 is Carlos Sainz.
I mean,
look.
You're more than on the hype train. You're driving the fucking hype train. I mean, I agree. I think that Ferrari are going to do well. I mean, I don't know that
you put them top of the constructors. What do you mean? Like,
because
you think one of them's going to win the championship?
Not necessarily, but
no,
I don't disagree. It looks a bit funny that I've done that.
Yeah, but where have you put Carlos? If Leclerc is sixth, where's Carlos? Because otherwise your constructors is backwards.
Carlos I've put in fourth.
That wouldn't win them the constructors though.
You've thought about this more than I have. Then I've got third, George Russell.
You're way too high. Way too high.
Second, I've got Max Verstappen, which means I think Hamilton is going to regain the crown.
Okay, well, let's talk about this. Not that I disagree with you entirely. I'd love to see Lewis as champion. Don't get me wrong. I think Lewis, at the end of the day, to me anyway, and it is because I grew up with him, I think he is the best to ever do it. I will say that, and like I said, you'll think Schumacher, or you might, but again, it's hard to say anybody else, because when you witness that brilliance and you witness drives from, and you go, that man is made of steel. Like when you talk about Formula One drivers, there are some super heroic performances, and Lewis Hamilton is that. The reason I got fourth is because I actually am going to believe Lewis this time and say that the Mercedes isn't as good as he thinks it is. And do you know what? If I'm wrong, then I don't really care, because I like Lewis, I like George Russell. So if they're doing well,
so you can't lose.
And the reason I put Danny Ricciardo fifth, I'm going to explain that one first. I think that's our biggest discrepancy here. Is I think he is brilliant, and I think new car, new start. I think they'll look at it, and obviously that they're going to focus on Lando, not as much as Red Bull Verstappen levels, but I think Danny, now he's integrated in the team, let's give him another shot. I don't think he's going to do as well as Lando. I put Lando second, for Christ's sake. I genuinely think it will be a fight. But honestly, in my head, I think it's going to be a fight between all four of those teams. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be a Mercedes Red Bull fight. I think it's going to be, they're going to be sort of placed all the time. But I think when you look at people like Lando Norris, if the team is that close to it, I reckon he's going to be getting a better chance of winning, because you saw some of the performances last year when they weren't. And I think Lando is somebody that doesn't really barrel to pressure. I mean, you look at Sochi, for example, I don't think that was a pressure thing. I think that was the team not having the most knowledge, because they weren't very assertive with him. They were very much, do you want to stay out? Whereas other teams, I think that was a team failure, to be honest with you, because I think if they were more assertive, he would have come in. And I think
it wasn't a pressure problem.
You see him on certain laps where he is phenomenal in qualifying, and he's done brilliant races. Well, brilliant overtakes. Last lap, Lando, that's a bit of a joke. It is legitimate. He doesn't bow to the pressure. Some drivers think, oh shit, it's the last lap, I've got to do a silly overtake. He takes his time. He picks the right moments. I think if he's got a car that is considerably closer to the top, then that could put him in good. I don't think he's going to get there.
I don't want to kite on him, but yeah, he's also really, really consistently not mistake. He doesn't make mistakes often.
Nope.
Either. He's very kind of metronomically quick. He's not got just flashes of speed. He's the real deal in my mind.
Right, let's try and dissect this, all right? Because I think there's a few bigger people who've got gaps. First of all, Sergio Perez 9th. I don't think he's that great, and I think he will flounder. And the reason I'm saying that again is because of how close the teams will be. I think that's what's going to cost him. I think my only thing, I maybe would switch it around if we're being realistic, because I put him 8th and Gasly 9th. But I just really like Pierre Gasly, and I think Gasly could have some heroic drives and beat Perez. But I think in my head, and what I believe, if the cars are closer this year, and there is sort of not maybe a 4-way straight shoot, but certain races where 4 teams could win it, I think Perez, unfortunately, because it's such a max-heavy car, will struggle in comparison to other teams where you can tell that it's kind of a dual sort of thing. Like, for example, George has always been brought up in the Mercedes way of driving, and that's in the Lewis era, so he's quite used to the Lewis way of car. Or Charles Leclerc, and you can tell Carlos Sainz loves that Ferrari anyway, so they've kind of just stuck with what they've done because it works for both their drivers. Same thing with Lando, and maybe my Danny is a bit overestimated, but I still do believe Danny Rick is one of the best drivers in the world. If he can understand the car, Daniel will be back to his best. I don't think he's lost it, if you get what I mean. I think it was just he didn't understand the car, and towards the end we did see him on similar levels to Lando Norris. Obviously, it wasn't as regular. There were certain races where he dropped off again, but he did begin to catch up, which means he slowly did begin to get more integrated. I think we do forget that. I mean, you look at the title, and you see that he actually wasn't that far off on points. Now, yes, Lando had some DNFs, but so did Danny Rick. You know, like there was Portugal, for example, where he didn't score. I think people maybe towards the end overestimated the gap between Lando and Danny.
Yeah, and I think don't forget that this wasn't just Ricciardo's first year in the car. It was Lando's third year.
Yeah.
So he was fully at home. But yeah, I think they'll be a lot closer. He had to relearn the whole thing. I think he says in Drive to Survive he had to sort of rebuild his muscle memory, and the sort of what the car's happy to do and or not dictates which direction you go in, and you don't know those things until you have experience of the car. So yeah, I think it's something that he'll be, because it's a reset for everyone. Just a quick point on Perez. The other thing, and this applies to Hamilton as well, that might go against Hamilton and Perez is the emphasis on tyre saving as a driver, which both of those drivers, Hamilton and Perez especially, were particularly good at. That's far less critical on the new Pirellis apparently. So that's all part of enabling them a wider and longer window to race with at 10/10. So if there's that maybe counts against them. So that's me trying to add some weight to your Perez theory. Yeah. It's not all about
right. Max Verstappen 7th. I think I've underestimated that. Like I said, we've got to be honest. I didn't academically read this and go, right, let's put these in. I actually just went, it's not really a dream because hang on. Sorry, my internet's been a bit buggy. I didn't want to just put this, like, I don't think Max is going to end up 7th. Like, I don't want him to end up 7th. To be fair, I kind of like, as a racer, I like Max Verstappen. I think he's a bit of a twat every now and then. But then again, though, I think most of the F1 drivers are. I think Lewis Hamilton's a bit of a knob sometimes as well. Even though I would like him, I think sometimes he does say or do things that I disagree with.
On track, though?
Sometimes.
See, on track, I think Hamilton's generally clean as a whistle, like he's dead straight.
But yeah, I don't know. Verstappen 7th, it might be wrong. I've got this theory that the Red Bull might just be a touch behind in the first few races, and Verstappen, I think, will be hot-headed again because he's not at the front. I think he'll make some mistakes, not maybe crash, but perhaps cause some issues. Not really learn the car, And I think that might cause. Again, I'm going off the basis of just nothing. We don't know. Max Verstappen could win the championship again. He's one of the best of the current crop. So if he did, it wouldn't be surprising. But I'm believing F1's thing of saying the teams will be closer. I'm believing what the journalists are saying, in that McLaren and Ferrari look to be, on paper, in terms of raw pace, the best two cars. As long as McLaren at least can fix those niggles, then I do see Verstappen struggling. In comparison to the likes of George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, like, it's not like he's losing to nobody's here in my list. He's losing to 6 of the best of the current generation.
Yeah,
And like I said, I'm not saying that Verstappen and Hamilton aren't like the two juggernauts. They are, but I'm saying that if Carlos Sainz and Leclerc and Norris are in better cars, I think that would equal the playing field a bit more. And I think that they're no shabby drivers either.
Yeah. And as I say, looking at the test with all the caveats that go with it, Ferrari seemed to be quick, high fuel, low fuel, hard tires, soft tires, dirty air. The big problem was the porpoise. They were porpoising most. But yeah, I think they looked as good as any top team. And that, if that puts into that space Ferrari and McLaren and Mercedes and Red Bull, I still can't see Verstappen not fighting his way towards the top of those. But maybe.
But like I said, in my head,
maybe your theory some credence. Yeah, maybe it's gonna be a.
Like I said, also I could be wrong, and I could be like I said. I want to dramatize a good fight. I see this top 7 or every race being in like almost a different order. I don't see it being consistently. This person gets a string of second places. I see it being, this race, there's a good fight, and then Russell wins the race. And this time, I'm not saying Verstappen's not going to win races, get podiums. I'm saying that because of this top 8 or 9 or whatever being kind of compact, it can be quite changing, and it's going to flip and change out the season. I could be wrong with that. I'm just saying that I believe with how close in quality the drivers are, that all four of these teams technically have some of the greatest drivers of the generation. Like, there's not a bad driver in there. I think Sergio Perez is the worst of those 8. If you're talking about the Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, and Mercedes drivers, but it's so close. Russell 6th. No, look, I love George Russell. I'm not this. I know people want to see him do well. I want to see him do well. I think 6th in his first season in Mercedes, 2 spots behind Lewis Hamilton, is not a bad start. Personally,
I think you'll be surprised. I really think that Hamilton might have his hands full, as I said. But
didn't you still put? I knocked my mic over.
Just wreck the mic.
But yeah, didn't you still put Russell 2 spots behind Hamilton as well? So we haven't actually disagreed.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, I just
you
like
just
said,
moved them higher up.
I did, but also
so I think we agree then in terms of the balance between the two.
And I've revised this list today to go, no, I can't put them there. That's ridiculous.
I saw Verstappen 7th, and I knew that's going to cause some crap. And people will probably go, this guy knows nothing. I don't know anything. I've said that like 4 times on this podcast already. This is just a guesstimate with a little bit of knowledge from testing.
And we don't know this year more than, most years because of the changes have been so big.
Exactly. But Russell, I think overall will integrate into that team well. I think he'll challenge Hamilton more than Bottas. I think he'll win. I think he'll win a race. I think he'll win one race, which sounds harsh, but again, I just believe the Ferrari and McLaren this year, especially that Ferrari, is going to be a tough dog to beat. And I think
they have, because of their width of performance in terms of conditions. Whichever tire, time of day, low fuel, long run, short, anything, all of the strategic windows are open for them then, and that's gonna mean there'll be times when they might not even be the fastest, but they just have long run pace, or they're kinder on the tires, and or they've qualified well because of the 1 lap pace, and it's just going to allow them to win races that others would struggle to. If it all,
I'm filming.
Because don't forget.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry.
If
what? Your bag's not there. I don't think you put your bag in there, mate. You can come in, I'll edit it out. But I don't think your bag's in there.
Hello.
Did your shoot go to shit then? You didn't seem too happy about it. What was fools? By that, do you mean Ben and Sodom? Yes. Just those 2? No. So have you left your bag at your stubby then? I didn't take it in today, so I might. Christ. Anyway, back to
what were we saying?
I don't know.
How do we pick it up? So yeah, essentially that space at the sharp end of the grid is obviously the most interesting, but it's also looking from testing more crowded than normal, potentially with Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, and McLaren.
I think the interesting thing that we both done. There were a lot of similarities in our list. I think one of the interesting things is we both put Carlos Sainz above
Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I
think part of that is that McLaren fanboy. Part of it, I think, but also I think last year Carlos proved himself.
Yeah,
to not only be a decent teammate to Charles Leclerc, but I think didn't he end up almost beating him, or did he end up beating him on points?
Don't know.
Let's go to Dr. Google.
But yeah, Sainz is outstanding driver. I think Lando. I know obviously Lando would say this. Lando says that he thinks that he's one of the very best, putting him right up. And
yeah, Carlos Sainz did beat Charles Leclerc.
It's always a little tricky doing that because reliability comes into it. But yeah.
But in your debut season, either way, that's still an achievement.
Yeah, I mean it's the mirror opposite of Ricciardo's first year in a new car, isn't it?
Yeah, but even then, I disagree with that because, like I said, Ricardo. Again, you can always look at this is how I say it, right? You can look at the gap at the early part of the season, and that, of course, that's always going to create that gap. But the gap began to close, and that's why this season I revised it. I still didn't put Daniel above Lando, and I think Daniel is a better driver than Lando. Ultimately, for now, I think there will be that time in a few seasons where Lando becomes his peak. Same thing with George Russell. I think there will be a time where the kind of the powers that be they tip to scale, and we do see the emergence of the Charles Leclerc, Russell, and Norris at the top peak of the sport. And I mean, like and then they just get as good as Verstappen because I think genuinely they are there. But obviously, Verstappen's had those couple of years of legs on them, and it does take that. Like we've seen with Verstappen, we knew he was talented for years. Last season, he finally hit that. It wasn't just the car; he began to get up there with Lewis. It wasn't, and I think eventually they'll do that. I just don't see it yet, which is why I have gone with Lewis, Lewis above Russell, for the season. And I think George Russell is immediately the fact he went into that Mercedes and beat Valtteri Bottas, and again, like we said about half an hour ago, we were speaking of Bottas. Bottas is no pushover. He's a great driver, like a great driver, and the fact that he did that, not was mega impressive. So yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you immediately sit there and you go, well, this list could be absolutely rubbish, and Guan Yu Zhou wins the championship.
Yeah. But that's fine. It's just fun. It's just going on gut, really. I think this.
But you mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? You sit there and you think, how does this how the reason I went with Carlos Sainz is the better of the two Ferraris as well is because I just think he's got a cooler head. The other day, I think Charles Leclerc's only weakness is his hot-headedness, which is rare that it comes out, but when it does come out, it does affect him and he does make silly mistakes. I've rarely, and I mean this, I've rarely seen Carlos Sainz lose his head.
Just trying to think of a time.
I can't think of one, and I think that's going to be the difference between the two.
I mean, you're always going to make a mistake, and I think again it was Russia, wasn't it? Maybe the year before last, where he clipped the wall on his own, doing like 150 mile an hour, trying to get around the bollard because he'd gone long at turn 1.
That's technically turn 2 now, isn't it? They've changed it.
Took himself out. It's turn 0. We're not going there now. But yeah, he just kind of totaled the car there and then. But they're all going to make mistakes. But I don't think that was due to hot-headedness. I think it was maybe a bit of frustration, but it's just an error.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those, isn't it, mate? Where again, you can just this is so much more fun this list than last year because I think we all knew it was going to be a Hamilton Verstappen fight. Whereas this year, although they're the two best drivers on the grid, we don't know if the cars around them could cause some issues with that, and that's exciting. We will. And look, I'm going to reiterate. I genuinely don't think Verstappen will finish 7th. I put that there sort of as a joke, but just like because of course Max Verstappen's one of the best drivers, for even world champion last year on merit. Whether you think the last race or not, whatever. But when the pundits, normally you say it just as a joke. When the pundits said, "Oh, they both deserved it," they legitimately did. If it went to either one of them, you could go, "Yep, deserved world champion." It wasn't they were one better than the other. If you could split the championship, do you know what? I probably would have last year because they're that good. I just think this year we're going to see the emergence of the Ferraris, the McLaren. Again, McLaren P2 is my fanboyness, but again, you could see they're quite quick as long as they can fix these little bits, and as long as they can do. I don't see why, especially with the outfit McLaren now, Andreas Seidel, Zach Brown, and the extra money, no matter how controversial their sponsors are who are giving the money and the investors. Seidel and Brown, they're not going to want to sit on their laurels here. Now it's a new era. They're going to go, let's attack this, let's go for it. Same with Binotto. I think he's got a point to prove as Ferrari team principal. Not that he's done a bad job, actually. When you consider it, actually, he's done pretty well, considering they were, for a period, pretty shithouse. Did they come 6th the season before last?
Going through team principals like every other season, weren't they? That was maybe, I think what you're talking about there is 2020 season, because that was the
where they got told off for being naughty.
they got told off in 19 for doing something not legit, and the following season therefore suffered because they were kind of leaning on this whatever they were doing with their engine, and when that was taken away, they were just nowhere. But they've come back, but then they are one of the most resourced teams, so it's going to be interesting.
Exactly, and I think I'm excited for this new season more than ever, because it's a new era, and I mean that like we start from scratch. Obviously, I mean certain teams can be better than others, but there's no doubt about that. I don't like if somehow Haas were to win look, I'm going to say this now. I want to do a bold prediction. I want Haas to at least get a substantial points finish. I don't mean like a podium. That would race up to be mental. But I mean, like if K-Mag or Mick can get like a 5th or a 6th, I reckon. I'm also going to say this as well. An Alex Albon podium, please, because I think this could be his last year in the sport, possibly, unless Red Bull end his contract and he just goes to Williams, which I think wouldn't be a bad shout. But
what was he due to? Wasn't it? And
he got one, didn't he? He got one in Mugello. Didn't he get one in Mugello? Was it Mugello he got his podium? He did finally get one.
Did he though?
Yeah.
Did he get one? Are you sure he got one? I don't remember seeing him up there. Yeah, I mean he's due some good results. I like him. I think he's
He took his first podium finish at the Tuscan Grand Prix.
Oh, there you go. Not a memorable race then.
There you go. That is from the official F1 website. Was that Mugello, the Tuscan Grand Prix?
Yeah. Yes. Because they had
that was the one with the horrible crash on the start line, wasn't it? Because there was a safety car restart.
Yeah. That was
that.
That was that. That was not a good. That was Bottas almost slowing down, speeding up. Didn't really, drew the scorn of a few drivers behind, as you'd expect.
But yeah, overall, mate, I cannot tell you the excitement that I'm feeling for this.
Well, it's been a very short off season, isn't it? It's been a very short.
But it feels like how to describe it. Obviously, this is a Doctor Who podcast. It feels like we're getting a new Doctor almost. You know what I mean? Like this, it feels like
you get new regs. Yeah. Well, we are, aren't we? We're getting both of those in the same.
Yeah. So it's gonna be exciting times in terms of seeing, what happened. These regulations could be shithouse, and we could be back to the old. It's a Mercedes 1-2. Or Red Bull 1-2. But I genuinely believe at least this season, for a decent bit of it will be close. And I think it would be very, I believe every team has sandbagged a little bit. I think that no team would want to give away everything. I think it'd be silly, So,
do you think we're in for another, as it was, and I can't remember which year it was, a couple of years, the first 5 races had something like five different winners, or the first 6 races?
Totally. And my other bold prediction is that it's not really a bold prediction, it's something that should happen. Lando Norris won his first Grand Prix. And I really, and same for George Russell. I think you can get a lot of new winners this year. Obviously, Gasly's won one. Who's there actually? Albon won't win one. I don't know when he was good enough. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think the new winners will be. Sainz doesn't want one, has he? So Carlos Sainz, 3. Well, 3.
Yeah. I think
there'll be 3 new winners. There'll be 3 new winners.
I'd hope so. Yeah.
I put Carlos as champion, and that is one thing I will stick to. No, that is one thing I will stick. That was what, like, if the Ferrari is the best car, I think he'll be the winning. I think he'll be the better of the 2, and I think he will win the championship.
That's still pretty bold.
If you're going out and out, I mean, I know you put Ferrari top of the constructors, but your championship standing doesn't really reflect that. But
I didn't think about
that. But I generally do. I agree with you that in essence, Ferrari will be the best car, and I do think that Carlos Sainz will win it. Do you know what? I think it will be one of the most, not a rags to riches story, because obviously, but like you would never expect Carlos Sainz 2015 and Toro Rosso to go, 7 years' time, that's a
World
actual
champion.
world champion. You know, I don't want to say
That's
it's
why
like
he's there.
Damon Hill-esque. I don't want to say, but Damon wasn't consistently doing amazingly until he did that season and won it. I'm not saying, obviously Damon Hill's wins, we don't know how emotional whoever wins the World Championship. This could be one of the best championship scraps of all time. Imagine, obviously we're hyping it up. It's not going to be that way. Imagine an 8-way fight. Even if it's not in the title, but like every race, there is at least a bit of competition between more. I just want to be more than 2 teams. That's what I'm asking for, everyone. Give us more than 2 teams at the top. Give us a nice scrap. Like I said, I'm not asking for the world here. I'm not asking for every race to be an absolute banger, because you're never going to get that, and then it would diminish the ones that are really good. I think Monaco will still be pretty crap in terms of racing because it's Monaco and you can't really get much better than that straight. Believe me, I've played the F1 game, I've tried. But it's not possible. You just can't race around that. Yeah. But I think I'm also excited to see some tracks return, like Canada. How I've missed you.
Usually, not always.
Wasn't the last Canadian Grand Prix the whole Vettel Hamilton debacle where Vettel moved the?
Yeah, I suppose it was. Yeah, because they haven't. Yeah,
that's one of those things that vividly in my mind is sealed. And even I did feel a bit that Vettel was a bit hard done by that day, but that's when I was a Hamilton fan. It's 3 years ago; it doesn't matter now. But
yeah, there's the track though. It's often very, very good. It's very fast and narrow, so there's often people touching walls and things. And the wettest race of all time, maybe not. Maybe Spa last year was wetter.
But I'm going to ask you another question as well. Which this question might be absolutely pointless, but because you don't know, it's all contracts. I'm going to ask you, what track would you like to see replace Sochi?
Oh well, I mean, I've got a soft spot for. Like Imola's already on the calendar, isn't it? Malaysia, maybe.
I'm going to go Malaysia or Turkey.
Turkey would be a good one, yeah. Malaysia.
Or even Malaysia's like a Hockenheim.
Nürburgring. Yeah, I miss the old Hockenheim. I know that there were problems with it, but you maybe
Brands Hatch, but they have to go at half speed.
Brands Hatch. It wasn't that long ago they raced there, but it was. Yeah. Because what else we're getting? Talking new tracks, getting Miami.
They're going to Miami. Will Smith. Yeah. If Will Smith isn't there, I'm going to be absolutely devastated. Like, I want him at the start. They did the national anthem. Screw that. It's Will Smith singing Miami.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean,
like, he was at Abu Dhabi that one year, wasn't he? Because he's friends with Lewis.
A couple of years back. Yeah.
Look at also the good thing about F1. I think last year, and I'm happy that they changed it now. Is that like the thing about the celebrities? Let's talk about that, because you get so many great celebrities that come up there and they want to have a chat. I still remember the day where, like, not only has it happened with Megan Thee Stallion, I don't know who she was, but she was very much not a fan of F1, and was just she was just mugged Martin Brundle off, didn't it? Because he was he was like, who do you think's going to win, Max or Lewis? And she didn't know. I think she was like, oh, and then Pierre was like, oh, you shouldn't be asking questions, and then Martin just goes, well, I can because I just did.
Yeah, and the thing is, he went on, and Martin Brundle's a legend, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's very measured in his responses, and he gave the perfect rebuttal, I think, online. Like,
but the thing is, well, like you get those celebrities as well, which I think are genuine. Like, I think one of my always favorites is like people like Ben Stiller or even Michael Douglas, who love the sport. I'm not a massive Ben Stiller fan as an actor, but at least I know when he's at an F1 race, he's there because he's a fan.
He loves it. Yeah,
and my favorite as well, even though he was just there because he's Lewis's mate, like Stormzy. I'm not a fan of his music, but he was there at Abu Dhabi, and you could tell he was gassed to just be talking about Martin Brundle. Do you know what I mean?
He was thrilled, wasn't he? Yeah,
like, and that's what you want to see. Like, but we don't want to just see celebrities there with their Instagram and like, oh, look at me at the F1. Like, I still remember one of the funniest calls back in the day was, I believe it was DC Coulthard. I think it was Christina Aguilera in Azerbaijan. And it panned to her, and Coulthard has a call like, "There's Christina Aguilera pretending to have an interest in Formula One."
Yeah, it's just like. That's Formula One through and through, though, isn't it? There's that need to balance image and publicity. And money.
Didn't they make a rule now that celebrities, if they're going to go onto the grid, they're not allowed PA or something to stop them. So they've been now told if
or just
if
don't
they
come onto
go
the grid, you know.
if they go onto if you go onto the grid, you have to accept the fact that you might.
Yeah, and that should be the case. I mean, that's why they're.
Well, the thing is, like, if
They're
you're an
there to
F1
add
fan,
value.
if you're an F1 fan and Martin Brundle comes up to you, you would jump at the chance to be on the grid.
Yeah.
Because if you're an F1 fan, you know how, first of all, how amazing the grid walk is, because it's some of the best moments, and B, how prestigious it is before an F1 race. You know, it's been a staple for years.
It's the one thing. It's the
Like my favorite. I'm a big fan of the actor. I think he's Anthony Mackie, right? He's in like the Marvel films and stuff like that. He was at the Hungarian Grand Prix in like 2020. He didn't know who Martin Brundle was. It's like what? Sorry, I like that. I like the guy, and you can tell that he's obviously been told, look, go to the F1 and all that. He wasn't rude about it, but you could just tell that he didn't know anything. Yeah, and like, whereas Megan Thee Stallion was like, I don't want to talk to you. Why?
Because I think they're still adding value by being there if you're not into it, but not talking to anyone is the red line. It's too far.
I think the issue is that if you come across as a tit on camera, that's when you go, okay, well, this is very much fake. You know, like I just something again. I get they get a lot of crap. I get they get a lot of people come up to them, but like if you're at an F1 event and an F1 report comes up to you, you shouldn't be surprised.
No,
like, you should. It's not like you're on the street and that what is it that channel TMZ or whatever randomly comes up to you with a microphone and a camera. It's not like that. You agree going to an F1 event. There's gonna be press around you and all. It's not. You know.
Essentially, that's why they're there. Really, at the end of the day, unless they're a paying ticket holder and they're sitting in a grandstand, that's the deal in my mind. Is the deal is you're a celebrity. We want to leave your capital. And your followers, and we want to talk to you and add value to people watching at home in the build-up, then you have to add the value. You can't take the ticket if you don't do it, in my mind.
Exactly, and I overall, I think it's just good. It's going to be a great season underway. I think there will be a fight for the championship. I think on-track action will be better, however minimal it is. I'm excited. I think, you know what, I think we're in for a treat, no matter what. I think this year there's going to be some shake-ups in some capacity.
Well, let's find out on Sunday. It's not long to go.
You can join me and Kevin at Sky Sports F1, I'm joking. We are now the new commentary pairing. Who are you? You know, I'm Crofty and you're Martin.
They did that a while ago. One of Formula One's kind of missteps into trying to lure fans in was a demystified, less jargony, more children-orientated commentary you could use on the red button. And I think it was just essentially people going, "Wow, look how fast they're going."
Would it just be me and you going, shit, it's him again. We want George to win. Yeah, we'd be the most biased commentators.
We're not going to be impartial, I don't think.
No. I mean, to be fair, there's not many drivers on the, if any, that I'd really dislike anymore.
Well, now that he's gone, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe no names.
Gunther Steiner announced for Haas as driver. That'd be great.
I'm hoping there's more Gunther Steiner moments in the remaining.
Well, you'd hope at least Haas are now more in the mix than they were.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll make it past the first corner.
Because they actually they didn't even bother with Ash's car at all, did they? They didn't, no upgrades at all. No. Like they had the same car throughout the whole year.
Yeah, which is why it's slightly disappointing, I think, from their point of view. And surprising that really the test looked like they hadn't used, not that they hadn't used the time wisely, but it wasn't going to be this panacea.
It was in vain.
Yeah, maybe we don't know.
Maybe we don't know. And that is the exciting thing.
Yeah,
that is exciting. Well, Kevin, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right, man. Well, this year, as long as it's not a controversial ending, we will do a wrap-up show. I think if you look at the time, that there would have been no way that we could have worded correctly.
I'd have just been fuming anyway. So,
Kevin, is there anything you want to plug? I know obviously you do Redbubble and stuff. If there's,
I do a Redbubble, yeah. If you want to, if you're a Doctor Who fan, I assume you must be listening to Alex's podcast. If you want to,
it'd be a bit weird if none of them were listening.
Yeah, listening to yeah.
Considering 90% of the listenership is, and I know a few of them that are F1 fans as well. So if it is
that's 2 or 3 listeners we've got then. But yeah, if you want to look up the Genesis arc on Redbubble,
link in the description.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, thank you very much. Much
You
appreciated.
know, what kind of things do you make? Obviously, t-shirts is Rebel.
They're mainly Doctor Who things, but there's other sci-fi as well. There's some Formula One stuff on there. There's some Red Dwarf stuff and some Columbo stuff. Strangely, I'm a big
that shows your age.
I'm a huge Columbo fan, and anyone who doesn't like it can get in the bin because
it's also weird as well. Because since also this is a good thing to say as well. Since we last did the podcast, we've now met in person.
Yeah, lots happened. Yeah, so we've met in person. Yeah,
I mean, I say that we did like a podcast a year ago, so
can't take that back. We'll get that time back. Will I?
You don't get that £9 rum and coke back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 5 prices. But honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at the Timeless Pod. You can follow me on Twitter, AlexKing_Dom. There'll be a link tree in the description to everything: Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher,
Redbubble,
and Kevin's Redbubble. And until next time, which will be on The Batman with Reese, Adam, and John. I bid you adieu. Enjoy the racing this weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you.